What's up, YouTube? So today or yesterday I actually mirrored a wand, and this is the wand. It's called Dire Call Imbued Wand, and there is a difference between this one and the other one that I ended up getting. And the fact is that one of these wands was made earlier. So this one, Dire Call, was actually made earlier, and then a couple hours later, after I had mirrored this one came out, and it's actually just one of the most unfortunate scenarios ever. It's like if you go out and you buy a new processor from AMD, and then 4 hours later, Intel releases their new processor that's like 10 to 20% better. It's pretty much the exact same scenario, but complete congratulations to both of these crafters who are able to make these insane items. So this is pretty much inspired from the 12-link sword and the 12-link claw that they've been trying to make. It is actually not that much harder to make it because of the fact there's a very limited pool of influence mods, whether it's a wand or a claw. Now, if you would like to know how you could craft one of these things, or just to see the process of how you make these things, please let me know down in the comments below, as I could go through a detailed crafting video of the whole process. But basically, the differences between these two wands is the links. Dire Call has increased crit strikes, Onslaught, increased critical damage, elemental damage of attacks, socketed skills deal 40% more damage, and the instacking roll. Meanwhile, Kraken Spell has increased crit strikes, lightning pen, faster attacks, crit damage level 18, however, and socketed attacks deal 40% more damage. Now the big difference is that instead of elemental damage with attacks, you have lightning pen, and then instead of onslaught, you have faster attacks. And this is good for two reasons, in that instead of lightning penetration, you can use awaken elemental damage with attacks. So instead of having it on the weapon, you can use awaken elemental damage with attacks, which actually allows you to have reflect immunity. And instead of onslaught, you have faster attacks. So onslaught is generally a pretty mediocre gem, and that actually doesn't give you anything besides chance to get onslaught on hit. Meanwhile, faster attacks gives you like 50% or 59% attack speed or something like that at level 20. So it's a pretty sizable difference. So it's a difference of 40% or 50% attack speed, and having like 4 to 5% more elemental damage, because it is awakened elemental damage with attacks. And also 20 lightning pen is 60% lightning damage on the base roll of the weapon itself, and level 20 elemental damage with attacks is 37% increased elemental damage with attack skills. Now the only huge difference is that you could say is better for Dire Call is the fact that you have onslaught on the weapon. And onslaught does make a pretty nice difference, as you're able to get onslaught on boss fights, and you're able to move around faster, thus allowing you to dodge abilities a lot better, because a lot of times you can't actually get onslaught on this build for bossing because you don't get to kill any mobs to trigger it. But anyhow, I'm going to go over the setup I'm using for these two wands, and you might be wondering why I actually have two wands. And then I'm going over pretty much, I'm going to showcase some clips of Wave 30 Simulacrum and Maven, just so you can see how insane the damage is. And I'm going to go over a quick demonstration of why Vengeance Cascade is the best anoint for Wanders. So with the 12-link wands, I'm going to use this one here since I had this one from the start. So this is the original one I mirrored. So with the 12-link wand, you have an 11-link wand. You have an interesting decision to make, which is what skill do I want to put in the 11-link? Now, Wanders, one of the biggest problems with this build, as I found out, and as many others have found out throughout the years, is that you have to choose between Kinetic Blast or Power Siphon. There's really no way you can get the single target ever with Kinetic Blast to be high enough to do everything in the game. I tried out some Mavens with Kinetic Blast. It is possible with the 11 link setup, and this is with a 10 mil DPS setup. However, it is just not good enough, and you always want to have another link or 6 link. So I have decided, since if you ever play Wander, you will know that you pretty much spend all your time KBing or using Kinetic Blast, and then you use Power Siphon for a very short amount of time, unless you're bossing, of course. So For Kinetic Blast, I'm using Anomalous Kinetic Blast for the Pierce, Awaken added lightning damage, Awaken lightning penetration, and Awaken GMP. Well, I'm too poor. I'm back to regular GMP. Damage on full life and Divergent Inspiration. Now, the most important thing is Divergent Inspiration has to be in the Squire because you get the 8% chance to quality, and then the Divergent Inspiration makes it so that you have a greater reduced mana cost. So you can see here, the mana cost is 68, and without Divergent Inspiration, it's all the way to 108, and this is without another gem link. So I could actually just put in, well, I don't have another random gem link, but let's just put in Barrage. You can see it's 162 mana, right? So Divergent Inspiration is huge and makes the build actually playable at this mana level. So make sure to pick that up. Now, Crown of Eyes, I decided since I'm mostly going to be doing Simulacrum, and I'm going to go for something that actually increases my KB clear, as KB is a skill I'm using 24/7. So I decided to get a Kinetic Blast, has a 75% chance for additional explosion. So you can pretty much think of this as 75% more damage, as the way KB works is when it hits something, it creates a small explosion around it. So that pretty much means that you get 75% more explosions, which is how you actually end up dealing your damage. Now, in the links for the helm, I'm running Discipline, Wrath, Enlighten, and Grace. So I'm using the Socket of Skill Gems to get a 90% cost skill multiplier so that the mana is a lot less. So you can see if I actually use these in another link, you would have a lot less mana left over, and I have tried it out. It's probably around a difference of 120 to 120 mana. So I ended up buying this amulet, and this is 10% increased attributes, 14% increased int, flat lightning, multi, and damage pen 7% LA res, and 15% max ES. I actually ended up picking up for 45 exalts, which is a pretty good deal. Ideally, you want to probably get int or multi is fine on the last suffix. The two suffixes you definitely need are percent attributes and percent int. And for the prefix, ideally you want to get damage per 15 int, and pen is pretty good too. But the fact of the matter is that those don't really exist, and it would be like a mirror in order to buy it. So I have 1668 int now, so my character is getting a lot smarter by the day. Now this chest piece I picked up for, I think it was 40x or so. So this one here is +1 level of socketed int gems, which is the elevated version of percent increased int. And then it also has frenzy charge on hit, which is actually the most important mod in my opinion. And lastly, it has fire res. Ideally, the fire res should be 55 T1 int. But in order to get a chest with T1 int, it's pretty much a mirror at the moment. And I do not feel like that you justify paying a mirror or 350 exalts for 55 int, and it just seems like a bad upgrade, because you can see these upgrades cost like 50x. That's pretty much like 7 of these items worth of upgrades. So I decided to just go for a little worse chest. I had to get a lot better chest in terms of ES because I ended up dropping the Aziri's mirror for Squire, right? So that's actually why I prioritize on getting a really high ES chest. I think the highest energy shield chest right now is like 900 ES or so, 874. But it does not have frenzy charge on hit. I think the one with frenzy charge on hit is 774 or something like that. So Shaper's Touch, I no longer need to get added lightning damage on the Scourge, so I looked for int and attack speed with LA weakness on hit. So this is probably like the best case scenario for what you want on your chest, on your Shaper's Touch. Ideally, you probably want to double corrupt with LA weakness and +1 frenzy. However, that is probably impossible. So for the chest links, I had Anomalous Power Siphon, Barrage, Awaken Lightning Pen, Increased Crit Damage, Awaken Elemental Damage of Attacks, and Damage on Full Life Support Gem. For the gloves, I'm using Divergent Dash. I use Sigil of Power, which is pretty nice. Sigil of Power is actually a pretty big DPS increase, and it also makes the mobs do 20% less damage while at maximum stages, so it's a pretty good survivability increase, and man, it is actually pretty loud. So, and then Divergent Dash gives you the phasing, Berserk is here, and Steel Skin left click. I do think I want to try to find a way to incorporate cast when damage taken with Immortal Call. As you'll see here, I actually get endurance charges now. So this boots I picked up for 95 exalts. or 100x, maybe 95. I'm not really sure. But reason I got this boot is elevated tailwind, elevated onslaught, T1 int, and it cannot be frozen with move speed, and I guess it is chance to gain onslaught on kill. So, and chance to gain elusive on crit. So the problem with this pair of boots is that it is not movement speed cannot be chilled. And cannot be chilled is a pretty big thing. It's really annoying to be chilled. It's pretty much a 30% less damage modifier as you lose 30% of your action speed. In terms of the best enchant, I feel like this is probably one of the better ones for Simulacrum. Damage if you haven't killed recently, lightning damage is pretty good for bossing, and damage pen if you haven't killed recently is extremely good. But if you're just going for Simulacrum, you're going to be killing mobs all the time. I feel like this is the best setup. So in my links, I have Spellslinger, Enlighten 4, Hydra Spear, and Warlord's Mark. Ideally, you probably want this socket to be white, so you can switch in Sniper's Mark. Now the big difference between Warlord's Mark and Sniper's Mark is that Sniper's Marks gives you like 30 to 40% more damage, right? But Warlord's Mark allows you to get rage generated over 1 second when stunned. So this actually allows you to keep a perma berserk up the whole time. So the reason why this works over Warlord's Mark ring is when you spell Slinger Warlord's Mark, you can apply Warlord's Mark on white mobs. And that is actually a huge tech. A lot of people don't really use this tech, but if you're mapping, you should definitely use Warlord's Mark if you have the damage. You'll never need the damage for Sniper's Mark, and Warlord's Mark will just completely carry your map clear. You will clear the map so much faster with Berserk up the whole time. You can even substitute in a Berserk increased buff effect helm for mapping, and it will give you a lot of move speed, and it will feel a lot better. Now and this will also allow you to get endurance charges. There is a divergent Warlord's Mark that gives you 20 rage, or 2 extra rage. But Warlord's Mark, the regular version, gives you 5% chance to grant an endurance charge when hit. So that means that when you do single target, you can actually have endurance charges up, and that when you use it with cast 1 damage taking a mortal call, it's actually a pretty big layer of defense. So we're actually able to add a lot more layers to defense with this build with Sigil of Power, which is 20% less damage, and then you can also keep up Berserk while mapping, which could potentially be up to 26% less damage with the helm. So that actually helps out a lot on this character's survivability. Now, for the flasks, I'm running J flasks of resist. This one, Alchemist Quicksilver of attack speed. This one here is where I get the curse immunity from. Now note this is with the Mage Blood Belt. And then here we have the Diamond Flask of crit chance that helps out, capsules out our crit. Now, the reason why I have another wand is because you want to experience the best of both worlds. So the way it works is that when you use this like 12 link wand or 11 link wand, one skill will be a lot better compared to a normal setup. So KB is probably like 20 to 30% damage more than a 6 link setup or in the gloves. And then Power Siphons is like 10% more, 10 to 20% more damage in an 11 link compared to like a mirror setup with the regular wand. So if you want to take advantage of the best of both worlds, and this build is limited on gem sockets, what you want to do is you want to get another Squire, and you want to put it in here, and I'm going to go over it next time, and you want to just weapon swap for single target. And that is truly the most end game setup for Instacker, I believe, and it is what people should try to get if you want to try something else a little different. And in the end, like, what is 1 mirror or 2 mirrors for a build that's literally mirroring 3 of the large cluster jewels, right? Instead of mirroring 3 of the large cluster jewels, you will gain so much more damage, so much more freedom in your build. Having the extra 6 gem sockets in the chest piece is huge, and it will even allow you to do some shenanigans like switch up the Spellslinger and have another Spellslinger Sniper's Mark, and you can turn it off, and you can actually switch your marks up for single target, right, versus clear. And I think it will be some of the biggest quality of life in terms of playing the Wanderer that we will see by having 2 wands. But I know obviously it seems like a troll, but I do believe that if you have the money, it is definitely the way to go. But basically, next video I'll talk about Vengeance Cascade because it is very long already, so I'm just going to showcase some bossing clips and see what the new skill looks like in Simulacrum, and enjoy. In number, please. It's probably like 40, 50 mil. $160, yeah, 4 is what they give out, yeah. The thing is, like, there's probably better options in terms of belts with only 2. It's actually a lot more enjoyable to boss on this character since you don't need there's not that much ramp up time or putting down totems. I didn't check it out again. I haven't looked at it in a while. Yeah, 3 flask one could be okay. Like, I could definitely drop one of these, the Sapphire flat. But then 3 flask one pretty expensive too. Fuck! If he didn't move.
All I ever wanted was to love like this. All I ever needed was to feel like something more than a closed door flat on the floor. I can offer
Which you have 60 mil DPS at least. He did nothing wrong, dude. Are you kidding me? Kostas is jumping on top of my head 24/7. Kostas is the worst. Oh, scorched again? Oh my goodness. I think I might need to start running a Bismuth Flask. Holy moly. Oh shit, please don't hit me with one of those weird things. Oh, we cleared it. Turns out Vengeance Cascade is good. Hey, how's it going, Ronald Watson? Basically, oh yeah, one thing. If you're running Warlord's Mark, I forgot to talk about this. If you're running Warlord's Mark, you don't have Sniper's Mark for the Vengeance Cascade, you have to make sure to get a +1 Pierce. I was able to get a Poacher's Aim. You can also craft it on gloves or helm, I think. Or you can even take like this node down here for +1 Pierce. Now, you want +1 Pierce because without Sniper's Mark, the Vengeance Cascade won't work. So +1 Pierce will allow it to pierce off of the one mob, hit the Hydra Spear, and bounce back and hit the boss again. So I'll showcase some demonstrations with Vengeance Cascade and no Vengeance Cascade, as I believe it's a pretty big eye-opener. I know a lot of people use Tranquility, but I believe it's just the wrong enchant to use and more of a PoE Ninja DPS warrior thing. But I hope you guys mirror this wand. I think it is just as game-changing as the 11 or 12 link sword. They're very, very fun to play with. It opens up the build a lot more, but obviously using a Squire is kind of shitty, but the damage is something you will never be able to obtain in any other setup. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, exalts, and mage bloods. Well, now you need 2 mirrors for the wands, but thanks for good luck with your build, and see you next time. Bye.